Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking to entrepreneur, business owner, friend and neighbor, Julie Greenfield. Julie, how are you? Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So I'm looking forward to talking with you today because you have a business, Stella Group. You're the principal in Stella Group, and you guys do marketing for commercial furniture lines.
Correct.
And so you work with companies, you market these companies, you rep about 11 lines, you work with architects, designers, universities, hospitals, office buildings, commercial buildings. So your world must have just been turned a little upside down as of March 13th-ish, because the whole commercial platform of furniture and going into an office and just the quantity of the type of furniture. I was at the I had a checkup yesterday, and it was like there was 4 chairs, right, in the waiting room where there's usually 14 chairs.
Exactly. Yep.
And so I really want to kick off today talking, Julie, about there were so many studies prior to COVID that talked about how this next decade is a decade of teaching adaptability. Even colleges were trying to figure out, how do we teach to a job market in 2030 where they say 85% of the jobs that exist in 2030 don't exist today?
No, right. Exactly.
How do we teach adaptability? And then COVID hits and just accelerates all of that. And so when it comes to your business, I'd like to start off by talking about, how did you adapt, mid-March to today?
Well, as I was telling you, I went into the office furniture business about 1 year before they declared the end of the office.
Yeah.
Timing, as always, is impeccable.
Yeah.
I have decided that the F word for 2020 is not the one you think. It's
Right.
flexibility. So really the key to office design and work, as well as life in general, is to be flexible. And I learned that this year. Really, we had no choice but to learn that this year. We have to be flexible in how we think, how we act, how we work, how we go to school, how we go to the doctor. Now we call ahead and wait in our car. We don't wait in a waiting room anymore.
Right.
We wait in our car, and that's become our waiting room. So it's really all about being fluid, flexible, open to new ideas, which some of us maybe have some trouble with that. But I think that's what I've had to do, is really embrace change on a level that I've never even had to think about before.
Yeah. And so when you're in that space of flexibility, of thinking about change, sometimes that's where some of the greatest ideas come from. We can look back in history over decades or centuries and see where tough times built built amazing opportunities and just new ways of thinking and doing. And so one of the things I think many companies, I know as a business coach, I've been working with companies all over the country on really refreshing and updating their 3-year plan. Yep. And so when you look as a business owner at your 3-year plan, starting, post-COVID, what does that look like? How do you scale and grow your business differently today?
Well, I think the first thing is I do marketing, and I market to architects and designers. And the main way we do that is in person. I go and I meet with people. I do lunch presentations. I show them my product. I have a lot of products that you really want to touch and see in person. And all of a sudden, I can't meet with anybody. That whole option has been taken off the table. So what we've been doing is we've been doing Zoom presentations ad nauseum, and that's part of the problem, is everybody has Zoom fatigue. So although that worked in the beginning, it's starting to work less. I've taken my presentations on the road. I'm going and I'm meeting with people in parks. I'm meeting with them in their parking lot and at their office. I'm leaving things on the porch of their house. Really looking at different ways to meet with people where they feel safe, I feel safe, but yet I can still get them the information that they need. And we're looking at different, that's kind of the easy part, but we're also looking at different ways as far as growing our business, wondering how the model is going to change
Yeah.
long term, and that's something that changes every day. My partner and I were talking about this before the COVID, trying to figure out the future of work before all of this. So now it's become that much more puzzling to us, and we're trying to figure out, do we take on more lines? Do we take on less lines and become a specialty? You can't be all things to all people. So we really try to keep a distinct brand going of who we represent and who we call on and what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. You're in such an interesting business where people need to really use a lot of their senses, a lot of their emotions in the feel, the touch, right? And so, you're bringing up a really good point. When you're someone who is an owner of a company and doing sales and doing marketing and having, how have you been able to hit people's senses, without being in front of them? Just a quick story. I interviewed a guy the other day on my podcast. It was a recorded version. I'm actually having him on a live in a couple of weeks. His name was Jonathan Silver. He's the CEO of a company, I think it's called the Affinity Group. And they basically do a lot of artificial intelligence. He was telling me about that Metro Airport's about to come out with, where if you and I are standing next to each other at the airport, the billboard that we're looking at, the TV at the airport, will show me something different than it will show you. Based on, he wouldn't tell me the technology, but I'm assuming it's something with my iPhone and something with facial recognition. So you and I have a completely different emotional experience standing side by side with each other. And so as you look at your business to 5 years out, 10 years out, and maybe you know the answer to this, maybe you don't, but how much does virtual reality and artificial intelligence and all of that potentially play a role in helping clients get the textual senses that they need to for your industry?
Well, it has huge implications for us because everything we do is visual. Technology, the companies that I represent are on the smaller side, so they might not have access to all of the technology that you're referencing. And I think that's where we will be going. We have the ability to plug in our products into drawings and into videos and into three-dimensional renderings. I could show you renderings that look like a photograph of a space, and they're drawings. We actually had one of our lines, Tabby, just did an entire brochure, a small lookbook of the entire space was created virtually, and you would never know it. I mean, you would have no idea. So I think that's definitely where we're going. And the question is, how can I bring that technology to the smaller companies and to companies like myself where we can take advantage of that? I don't know the answer to that. I think technology is moving so quickly. I do think a year from now we'll have opportunities like this. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. And I love, the end of office, as you put it. Your business, I would imagine, also is evolving because in these same time frames, we have, studies showing that 75% of the global workforce will be millennials by 2025. That doesn't even include our kids, not our kids, you and I have kids together, but my kids and your kids, our kids who are Gen Zs, and that doesn't include the Gen Z generation. And so how are companies like you in general getting ready to service that generation, which is different than the generation many companies are used to serving?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned millennials because contrary to what I thought, the research shows, I want to say it's between 70 and 80% of millennials do not want to work from home.
Well, yeah, a lot of what I'm talking to, I have heard some similar studies, and a lot of companies that I work with around the globe are saying that the people who are kind of clamoring to want to get back or are coming back are the younger generations. They want that, they want that connection and community. They want
they need the mentoring. They need that mentoring piece. They crave the socialization.
Yeah.
They really want the flexibility of working wherever and whenever they can, but ultimately they want to go back to a physical office space. One of the concepts that I am hearing about, I'm actually attending a Zoom presentation next week on it, is something called the trophy office, because the office itself is going to change. It might not look like a sea of cubicles, that we're used to.
Right.
But what we're going to have to do is to get people to want to come to the office. We're going to have to create a space that's more engaging. It's more fun. It's more visually interesting. It's going to allow people to collaborate differently and to collaborate better.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a change. Something I just read about this morning. It's not the first article I read, but I'm seeing this quite often. It might not be the end of the office, but I think we're seeing the end of the cubicle office. I think we're seeing a lot more people want privacy. They need privacy either for heads down work, for acoustic privacy, and now for health privacy. They don't want to be exposed to other people.
Yeah.
So we're starting to see product that can be changed very easily to go from maybe accommodating 4 people to 20 people and back down to 2 people.
Yeah, I think that's great. And some of the things, I hope post-COVID, some of these things are permanent, meaning I think a company should take a temperature of everybody that comes to work every day forever.
Right.
I remember being in the office world and going into clients' offices, and someone comes in and they're like, "Sorry, I just didn't want to take a personal day, but I've got 102 fever," or
right.
And that should be allowed. And so to me, it's like that will keep everybody safe and keep any type of flu, virus, anything down. But I want to go back to something you talked about earlier. It seems to me, based on what you're saying and what I'm seeing, that people just want variety. They want choice. They want to be able to know basically the energy of this meeting or the energy of that meeting or the energy of brainstorming versus the energy of planning or the energy of all these different things. There needs to almost be an office space where, okay, this is the brain think room. This is the strategy room. This is which we've seen in Silicon Valley for decades. You go to an office in Silicon Valley, they have the war room, the strategy room, the proposal room, everything's named after, different things to infuse that level of energy. So when you talk about the trophy office, I think that's really interesting. Where do we see that, right? Like, how do we see that transforming, like over the next year, over the next 5 years? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm reading about different things. I think one thing that you touched on is the millennials, and the research that I've heard about millennials is they've grown up in a world where they get what they want when they want it. Okay, so whether it's going to Subway and making your perfect sandwich exactly the way you want it on the bread with the right cheese and meat, whatever, to anything they do seems to be a customized solution. Right. So now these people are coming into the office environment.
It's how I've been ordering food at restaurants for my whole life.
Right. So, think about it. I think it was in middle school, my kids could have the choice of a salad bar. They could, so many different options than these people, kids, students, adults now are growing up being accustomed to getting what they want when they want it. Right. So you put them in an office where you stick them in a cubicle and you say, okay, work here for 8 or 10 hours a day. It's not going to fly. You need to be able to give people the options to work when they want and how they want. And I think what this pandemic has shown us is that, my kids came up from homeschooling in the basement.
My dogs will be barking any minute and my kids will be back in the room. So, yeah, right.
But what we found is that in this pandemic, there were a lot of companies who would never let you work from home. My husband Robert's company was a perfect example. It was just not even on the table.
Yeah.
Because they were forced to let people work from home, they realized it was doable. And now all of a sudden we realize, you can work from home. So maybe we're not going to force people to work in the office 5 days a week, 8 to 5. But, if you want to work from home, if it's snowing today and you don't feel comfortable coming into the office, we all know,
Yeah.
okay, stay home. If you have a cold, stay home, work from home. There's a lot more flexibility, once again, the F word, to work in these different ways. And I think that's only going to become increasingly more easier to do.
Well, and I think also it's, I think a lot of times companies, they have their people come in, and I'm making a blanket statement right now, but it's almost like a lot of times it's not spoken out this way, but they kind of treat people like objects. Like, okay, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. Well, my kid has a dentist appointment or a soccer game. Well, then you have to take 30 minutes. It's like so rigid and archaic to how the world works today. And so, many companies, needed to learn this. They just didn't want to conform, and now they have no choice to conform. And so to me, the companies of tomorrow are the companies that not only, I love your word, allow flexibility, but infuse more trust in their people. And what they're seeing now, I think, is that they can trust their people. Many companies are more productive, more effective, more efficient, more profitable. I mean, the list goes on and on. And so in your world, right, let's talk about, you work in the commercial world, but now if I'm a business owner, I'm thinking, okay, you may be in the office. If I'm a business owner and Julie, you're working with me, and I know you're working from home 2 days a week or 3 days a week, I want to make sure that you have an environment that is energetically conducive to put yourself in a very zen place. Right. So you're more productive and happier for me, the business owner. And so are we going to start seeing companies adding a line to their budget of home furniture, meaning, hey, I'm going to buy you the best chair possible. I'm going to buy you a $500 chair. Well, to me, it should, right? I'm going to buy you a $500 chair so your back doesn't hurt. I'm going to buy you a coffee pot. I'm going to buy you a computer. I'm going to buy you a second and third screen so you can set up, this great environment. We own it maybe as a company, and you have to give it back if you leave. But how's that bridge going to happen?
Well, I think it depends on the company and the company culture. I've talked to, I have a cousin who works for a large tech company. I'm not going to mention names. They were given $1,000. They could buy whatever they wanted. So maybe it was $1,000 chair, or maybe it was a $200 chair and an $800 desk, but it was up to them.
Yeah.
I know of another company, local company here, who bought all of their employees an ergonomic task chair, had it delivered to their house.
Right. How much are those?
Oh, anywhere from $300 to $1,000.
Right. So you buy, let's just say, a $500 chair for your employees to make sure that they have a good back and they can work more, with better posture and effectively throughout the day. So they don't have to take off time and go to the chiropractor if they need to. Have a stand-up desk. Those small investments. I would think that your profession, right, that is going to be moving in that direction. Maybe 30, 40% of your business to get people really high-end home offices.
Yes, and what we're finding is a lot of these companies, a lot of these bigger companies are adapting, and they're creating websites for people for personal use. One of my companies, Buzzy Space, they've got a website so you can go and you can order specific items directly from the internet for your house. I've got another company that's creating a quick ship program so that you can get product in 5 business days. Yeah. So we're definitely seeing that shift. And it's not an easy thing for these companies to go from, they're used to ordering 500, 1,000 chairs for a project, to ordering one chair and delivering it to John Dwoskin in Huntington Woods. Yeah. It's a very different model and very different cost structure. So that's something that these companies have to figure out, how we're going to do this, because you can buy a chair from Wayfair or from Overstock, but is it going to be the same quality that you're going to get from some of the other companies out there?
I laugh when you say these companies are trying to figure out, not because of what you said, but because I hear that all the time, right? In boardrooms, hey, we're trying to figure it out. If I told you how many companies I was meeting with, and I would say, hey, let's lay out a plan for, flex time, for remote working, for this, and well, we'll get to it. We don't have time. but yet in 2 weeks, but March 15th, through April 1st, everyone had 2 weeks to figure it out, and they did. And so to me, and this is just my 2 cents.
Did. Yeah.
The urgency that I think this is really important, because I don't think this is going away. You look at the Ford Motor Companies, the Googles, the Facebooks, they're not running back to the office. Their office model is, at least for the next, 6, 12, 18 months, seems to have been changing. I talked to many clients this morning who all said they're not even going back to the office till minimum June, if ever. So it's interesting, but I just want to talk about investing in your people, right? Because that's what we're talking about right now.
Right.
It's training, mentorship, anything. It's an investment, and so somebody can look at and say, "Hey, $2,000 sending Julie a desk and a this is an expense or an investment," right? So how do you get companies to see it as an investment?
Well, it's interesting. I had this conversation with someone right at the beginning of the quarantine, and you look at all of the ergonomics and all of the money that businesses have spent on ergonomic studies, staff, they have staff come in and do these studies on the ergonomics of how people were working. And in an instant, people went from sitting in an ergonomic chair, maybe they were at a sit-to-stand desk, all of these advances to sitting cross-legged on their couch in their living room doing work. So is that opening up these businesses to an ergonomic issue? If I hurt my back because I'm working on my couch, is that my company's fault? That I don't know. This is a whole new
world.
And how do you even regulate something like that? You can't tell someone how to work from home or
Yeah.
I've also got a background in environmental design and designing for the environment, and a big piece of that is buying quality product, because the higher quality product you invest in, the less product goes into a landfill.
Yeah.
So from an environmental perspective, it's always better to get high quality product. I talked about our brand. Our brand really is focused on high quality, high design manufacturers who make high quality and high design products, so that you are buying something that will stand the test of time, that will last, it will be durable, it will have a warranty, and all of those things go into a quality environment to work in. I'm sitting in a desk chair, my Aeron chair. It's 20 years old, but it's still one of the best ergonomic chairs you can buy today, and make a big difference in how you.
Yeah. Will you send me a link to that? I may want to buy one of those.
I don't sell those. I'll send you a different link.
Oh, send me a different link. Yeah. All right, Julie, that is fascinating. You ready for the quick speed round?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right. Best piece of wisdom you ever received?
Best piece of what?
Best piece of wisdom.
Wisdom. Work hard and be nice.
That's true. Nice is critical. Favorite book and why?
Oh, favorite book. Oh my goodness. You know what? I loved Mindy Kaling's book. For some reason, that one comes to mind. Her autobiography. It was fascinating. It was funny. It was insightful.
I can see that. We didn't really talk about the humor side of you, but you are, if anybody follows you on Facebook or social, you've got an incredibly witty personality and really funny. So I can see why you would like her. One piece of advice for all the college graduate young adults that are graduating into this world.
Be open to opportunities. Don't be afraid to pay your dues. Just figure things out, because like you said, we don't even know half the jobs you're going to do in your lifetime. We haven't even discovered what those are yet.
Yeah.
Just be open to living and trying new things.
I love it. I love your dad. I sit on the board of Feverfee Loan with him. And so for lineage purposes, one great piece of advice your dad has given you.
It's funny. My dad, and he's who I get my sense of humor from, by the way, as well. He always said to me, do the right thing, and in the end, it will pay off.
Yeah.
Work hard. And, I've always tried to live by that. And the way Feverfee Loan gave me a business loan, that's how I started my company.
All right. I love that.
Back.
I love that. Julie, tell everybody who your ideal clients are and how they can get a hold of you.
Oh, my ideal client is someone who appreciates good design, high quality product, who values quality really, and values relationships. That's one thing we really pride ourselves on, is our customer service, and that we're easy to work with. We're a professional group, and you can always go to stellagroupinc.com to see who we represent and get a hold of me that way.
All right, I love it. Julie, thanks for being on the show. This was really fun talking about, just the world of, what you do and how the world has changed and how you've adapted. I think, it's critical, and I love hearing that, you just kind of got it, and you're constantly figuring out and leading the path for your clients. I appreciate everything you shared today. I'm having your cousin on, Jeff, tomorrow. He threw in a comment there. I'll just throw that in there. I'm looking forward to that. It's a pleasure getting to know you. As long as I've known you, we've never really talked business. So it was
never.
A little bit about what you've done, and continue doing great things and helping people. And I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I hope I did a good job. Otherwise, I can't. I'll have to go the other way when I walk my dog.
It'll be great. It'll be great. I'm sure I'll see you in the next couple hours.
I'm sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.